Hi, Smudge here. You'll know me. But also, the other thing I do is apparently I'm a superstar DJ. Well, so I don't believe it. I think there's somebody else going to come in the room any moment now. But in the meantime, I'll have a chat with you about what I do. Kind of like music is a way of life for me. It always has been, always will be. Family was my dad was a jazz drummer of all things in the East End of London back in the mid late 50s, and jazz music then continued right the way through to the house. So therefore, music has always been with me, if you were, right from word dot. So whether it be Herb Alpert or Benny Goodman or whatever, it was always in the household. So therefore, you then start to buy and listen to more and more music, and particularly certainly in the 70s when I first started. I think the first record I ever bought was Susie Quattro. Remember her? The Devil Gate Driver thing was the tune was rubbish, but she was awful. But anyway, there's another story. But everything kind of hit a note. I was into kind of rock and anything until one album came out in 1976, Stevie Wonder, Songs for a Key Life, which I mentioned last time around, and that kind of got me into soul music, and that was the milestone, the pivotal point, if you were. And at this time, we started collecting more and more records. Bob and I had a conversation very briefly about radio shows, and so therefore you listen to, say, Robbie Vincent on Radio London, and they were talking about 1976, 77, and he would play a tune. It would be an import. It'd be blooming expensive. Yet you, after the show, you went out and you bought that particular record because I was then starting to be what they call a box boy. Now, what a box boy basically means is that you're working with a DJ who is carrying around all this equipment. Now, you're not talking about this thing here, which holds about 6,000 songs, and that's what I use now. You're talking about boxes and boxes of vinyl. Now, these things are blooming heavy. And a DJ would have, whether it be on 7-inch crates, pub crates as it were, or indeed crate with boxes. And you have to go up and downstairs and, car parks and whatever. And the DJ will always be in front and you'll be lagging behind. Oh, what can you say? But that was my introduction to the world of music, in particular, DJing. And this was at a club called Bentley down in Brentwood. And that's where I learnt the craft. Bentley is no longer there. It was a Joy Fook. It's now changed even further. So it's been many things. But that's how I first got in, by being a box boy. And then you then start to see, the DJ will then say, well, actually, I didn't need to go and have a drink. Will you take over? And of course, there's your first introduction. You're then working on two record players. Generally, they're Technic SL1200s, for those who know. And you then got all your box of vinyl and away you went. And you were playing to, the Bentley Club would hold about 300-400 people at the best of times. And that's where I started around. So, I was 18, I think, at the time. It must have been more than a couple of years ago. So that's kind of where you got into. But music was, and you had to have the right music, you had to have the right records, you had to have the right mixes of the records. And that's becoming very, very sort of anarchy. But that's the way it was. And I think some of the difficulties that a lot of DJs in particular, not just resident but mobile with DJs as well, whereby they're playing music to wedding, funeral, bar mitzvahs, whatever it may be, want to play their music, which is obviously mine going to be soul, but you don't want to play Kylie Minogue or whatever, but you do because it is they're the paying customers, as it were. So kind of that's where I started off, and I then got in. At the time, we used to go to London. If you weren't working, you went into London. I went to the Lyceum, which was the big event on a Friday evening. That was with Capital Radio. So you had DJs like Greg Edwards, who was a massive influence on me and people like me at that age of time. and used to go there till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then try and find the milk train home from Liverpool Street back to Chelmsford, where I lived at the time. And, you wouldn't get back to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and you've been working all day on a Friday as well. So you're absolutely shattered. And you used to go to sleep and then wake up by the bacon sandwich, and then go into the Robbie Vincent show on the Saturday lunchtime. So that was the whole thing. With regard to DJing as such, I did about 3 or 4 years. I wasn't that good at it. Probably many will say I'm not that good at it now. And there's not a lot of money in it, because if you can imagine that, even at the Bentley, you were being paid somewhere in the region of about £75 for 3 nights. 50 quid of that used to go on records, and that's why it was. There wasn't the ability of MP3s or whatever. It was all on vinyl, so therefore there was no you couldn't give us a copy of that, or have you got a copy of that, or download it from iTunes or Spotify or whatever it might be. There was none of that. So that was contrived, and I then said, right, that's it. And I was working in advertising in London at the time. I was pretty good at it. I made my career in radio buying. I was a buyer at an advertising agency, so therefore I bought various campaigns. I then got approached by Essex Radio down in Southend, as was 1985, and to join their sales team. And in that time, which had been a bit of a radio geek as well, it was fabulous times being there. You met many people, many very successful DJs. Dave Gregory, Bob and I were talking about. John Leach, who's still broadcasting today. These guys were like idols, and I was in the same building having a chat, as you do. So I did that for about 4 years. That was a fabulous time. And then moved to what is now KISS. And so therefore that was 1990. And I met up with so many different people there, again on the sales side. But because radio was in the blood, and music was in the blood, and being a DJ was in the blood, it was, that's what you wanted to do. And it was almost like, there's many people here that not do a job and just feel it's a way to make a living. To me, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I did it for about 8 or 9 years, and I turned out to be probably one of the oldest people working at this at that time. And you suddenly realise, well, maybe it's time to move on. But some of the gigs and some of the events. Talking about a funny story, while I was at KISS, I was not only on the south side, I also did some nightclubbing as well. One of the funniest things I remember is I was putting an event on in a place called Mirage in Windsor. Now, Mirage is very similar to the Circus Tavern, as you will say. It's a cabaret night kind of thing. Outside of cabaret season, they used to put like DJs on. And so therefore they asked me to then put on a night. So therefore I managed to get some KISS DJs and some other bits and bobs and some live acts as well. And that was great. And they say, Gary, we want you to kick off the night. Brilliant. I said, can you get here at 8 o'clock? And we want you to anyway, so I was a warm-up DJ. 8 o'clock in the evening. The doors open at 9. I don't know what they were trying to tell me. Anyway, one night we had an artist booked in for a PA. This artist was Eve Gallagher. You may or may not, kind of one-hit wonder. And at this time they said, well, right, okay, well, what are your riders? They're riders, making sure they've got orange juice in the VIP bar or whatever it might be. It's kind of like a cloakroom, kind of covered up with curtains, and you'd go through, and a bouncer was there to make sure that only the people that were on the list were were allowed in. So that's great. And we said, well, how many people? 5. We have so many people. Go, no problem. Anyway, Eve arrived with her entourage. Yeah, they all got through, except for one fella. And I clocked it and I'm going, what's going on? And the bouncer was saying, no, you can't come in. And I'm going, this looks familiar. It was Boy George, would you believe it? And Boy George was the manager of the Gallagher. Anyway, so the bouncer said, well, I don't care who you are, you're not coming in. I'm going, well, hang on, you don't know who this is. That's Boy George. He's not that. So anyway, it took about 10 minutes to try and get him through. But it just shows that people will do their job rather than looking at it and saying, well, it's him. You can't do that. All these things, trials and tribulations, will happen at the same time, as well as you're trying to manage the night.